Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and we are in for a conversation that I feel is so needed, especially for us midlife women, because women over 50 have been erased from the conversation about sex, beauty, desire, and pleasure for decades. They're either the punchline, the advice giver, or completely invisible. For years, the world has handed women clinical, hollow answers. It's your hormones. It's just aging. It's the natural decay of a long-term marriage. Buy the cream, take the pill, try harder. But as you're about to discover today, what if none of those explanations are the truth? Blending clinical expertise, nervous system, and hormone science, raw midlife marriage truth, and laugh out loud real talk, Dr. Julie Merriman joins me to talk about this and so much more. Dr. Merriman is a licensed mental health clinician, counselor, educator, burnout researcher, author, and speaker. As the founder of Soul Joy brand, she serves as a premier authority for women over 50 navigating the intersection of professional burnout and personal intimacy. With over 30 years of clinical experience in academic leadership, including tenures as a professor, department head, and associate dean, Dr. Merriman has dedicated her career to the science of human helping. Her work is deeply rooted in polyvagal theory and somatic neurobiology, providing this bridge between academic rigor and soul-led transformation. And you know that's one of my favorite topics. Her personal journey through profound burnout and a subsequent breast cancer diagnosis informs her scorched earth approach to healing, proving that rebirth is possible at any age. She's the author of the 12-Week Guide in Pursuit of Soul Joy and the recently released book that we're going to be talking a lot about on this topic today, Are We Gonna Have Sex or What? Welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much, Linda. It's lovely to be here with you.
Well, this is such an important conversation, one I think we need to shout from the rooftops, right? And
Right.
as I shared at the beginning, about your view of how we've always been erased from the conversation, especially on social media, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, let's just show all the young woman. It's almost like you hit a certain age and they want us to disappear. And and then as our bodies change, sometimes we kind of feel like we want to disappear.
Right.
So, yeah, I've been there, girl. So let's dive in. I always love to find out what led to this work. So was it a personal journey that led you to this work in this specific topic?
Absolutely. And I will say my daddy always said I did things the hard way. So it hadn't been a straight journey by any means. But I remember specifically, I was about 45 and I had come off a stage. I'd been a keynote, standing ovation. From the outside, it looked like success. But I was numb. Linda, I didn't feel anything. I could not internalize any of that hard work. And I had worked weeks to prepare for that. And it really hit me in that moment. Something's not right. I should feel this. And really I realized I was numb, period. And that's really what led me. I mean, before that, I had really been more researching burnout and compassion fatigue. And then I ended up burned out. Ha ha ha. Because I was watching my students and my interns, they'd come in all bubbly and ready to go and then just collapse. I'm thinking, what's going on? So that was my first book and my way back. But as I got deeper into the research, I realized how informed it is by our nervous system and how our nervous system, and this is what's really cool. I think you'll like this, and you may already know this. Our chakra system aligns perfectly with that polyvagal system. A neuroscientist might talk about it in vagus nerve terms, but it aligns with your chakras. So I really bring in a lot of chakra psychology um, for that very reason. And it has been my road back.
I love that you combine the two, and I'm a chakra girl, so we're gonna have a great conversation today. So, is that what led you to write the book as you dove into your own experience? And I'm referring to your newest book, Are We Gonna Have Sex or What? Is it that journey that led you to say, this conversation isn't being held? And women need to know this because we only hear the medical doctors, as we said at the beginning, buy the cream, take the pill,
Right,
try harder.
right.
But they don't look at everything that you're looking at, especially the nervous system. That's what really drew me to your work, how you realized that it was our nervous system that was out of alignment, using my phrasing. So fill me in on that part. Did you just feel the call like women needed this?
Well, I did feel that calling, absolutely. And of course, I'm 63. I was going through it myself. And it's interesting when I first started my career, because I'm also trained as a play therapist. I saw, families and little ones, and my clientele aged with me. So as I'm doing marriage counseling and working with women, in midlife now, it really hit me. We didn't have words to really discuss what was going on, and women were feeling shamed. This whole wellness industry, and I know they mean well, but so often it's gaslighting. Someone, a high achieving woman who has been in a pressure cooker for 30 years will be told, well, just go get a massage. That
Oh
is
yeah,
not
yeah.
that it's like, well, you're doing something wrong. Get that massage or buy that planner or put sex on your to-do list. And those things can be very gaslighting and not helpful. And I know it's well meaning. So I'm not hating on anyone. We send love everywhere, but I do want to recognize how gaslighting that can be. And I found women feeling very ashamed and very like scared, like, am I broken? And we are not broken. We need to show up loud and proud. We are not broken.
And I love that because you said that this isn't about fixing a broken libido. Because as
Absolutely.
you just shared, we're not broken to begin with, but we grab that mindset because of what's coming at us from the world and physicians that
Yeah.
says, "Oh, you are doing something wrong," or um, just just do it anyway. But then, how can a woman just give herself over when she is not feeling aligned with her own body
You
or
can't.
desire?
Right. No, you absolutely can, and then we exacerbate that by the obligatory sex we've had over the years. If you're
Yes.
long-term relationships, orgasms we fake just to try to make the partner happy and finish things up. Our body is confused. We've lied to our nervous system over the years, not because we meant to, but because we were just trying to survive. And with all this, our nervous system gets so out of whack for years, and it's cumulative. For years, we've lived on cocktails of adrenaline and cortisol to keep us going. We have learned to equate our worth to our performance, our outcome. We become floating heads of competence. We try to think our way out of things. And girl, how many times have we swallowed our truth to keep the peace? And think what that does to our throat chakra, our heart chakra. We end up with resentment because our needs aren't met. Then we feel guilty and shameful for having that feeling. I mean, it's really this cycle that we go through. And the nervous system is ruling the day. And our little amygdala, the little almond shaped part of our brain, is doing its job. It's scanning the environment for danger. And we've taught it danger is everywhere. Danger is in a missed meeting. Danger is in forgetting to pick the kids up at school. Danger is in, I mean, you name it. Danger is in if I don't get all these clients seen. And we brace, right? Our nervous system goes into survival mode. We are in sympathetic fight or flight, or we drop down into dorsal vagal where that's fawning, dissociation. And Linda, I work with a lot of ladies that God love them. They are in sympathetic and dorsal at the same time. So they cannot relax in their body, but yet they can't feel their body. And it's very hard to get to the state of where we are socially ready and can access pleasure because we have been in survival mode for so long. We've told our brain, and it's very selfish with its energy. It narrows as we stay in survival mode and it takes pleasure offline because it's going, Chicky Poo, you don't need this. You're trying to survive. We don't need pleasure. We don't need desire. And that
It's almost like
all
a protective mechanism working against us.
Oh, absolutely, because our nervous system is very primitive, and you think back to the caveman days, if you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, you don't need to be reproducing, you know?
Yes.
We're gonna we're gonna protect you and keep you alive, and we love our nervous system, it's just doing what it's been designed to do, but it wasn't designed to help us in today's world in our modern lives, if you will. So it kicks into these places and on top of that, if we look at the chakra side of things, we're but think about it when you're really upset. And I know I just took my department, I run a department at university and I just took it through a accreditation visit. And that was a special kind of hell. That I mean, it was awful. It was, and I found myself in fight and flight quite a bit, which is what I try to teach my ladies. At least now I recognize it. You know, before I was clueless those things were going on, but I recognized I was in fight and flight and I could do some things to help me. But I remembered I caught myself bracing. And when we're really uptight about something, we tend to brace and think what that does to our pelvic floor. We're bracing there. And then we tell her to do Kegels, which she's been Kegling for 30 years, you know, and your genitals are not getting the blood flow when we're braced like that. So, I mean, it's very natural and normal that when we get to midlife, desire looks a little different. But we've got to get ourselves regulated before we can even get to it.
Mm, I love this. And in the next segment, I want to talk about something that you had written. It said, desire doesn't vanish without reason. And my friends, when we come back from our break, we're going to dive into that, into the reasons that you are feeling the way you're feeling. We'll be back in a moment. I'm with Dr. Julie Merriman. You can visit her at juliemerrimanphd.com. As always, whatever platform you are listening on, the links are all down below. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to reinvent your life on your terms? Midlife women, it's time to get off autopilot and co-create your dream life. Midlife Transformation Guides Beth Myers and Kim Gore are passionate about guiding women to discover adventure in their own lives and to become deliberate co-creators of their dreams using mindset, belief and energy clearing, and compassionate guidance and coaching. They know firsthand what it takes to transform your life from surviving to thriving because they've done it. Today, their dream life consists of being full-time travelers in their rolling home and exploring, connecting, speaking, and creating sacred community gatherings with other lightworkers around the country, both in person and virtually. Midlife women, if you're ready to release your limiting stories, reclaim your inner light, and rediscover the joy within, visit you2canthrive.com. That's the letter U and the number 2, canthrive.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Today we are talking about desire, midlife, all the stories we've been told and all the stories yet to be written about our relationship with our body, our sexuality, and so much more. So, Julie, right before the break, I mentioned about something you had written. Desire doesn't vanish without reason. And you wrote it recedes, as you've been sharing, when our nervous system is carried too much for too long. And when you say, I love this sentence, when a woman has spent decades being the CEO of everyone else's needs, holding families, careers, and everything together, the body eventually makes the decision the mind cannot, right? And can we talk about that a little more? Because it's like that protective mechanism that you were just talking about. It softens our sensations, right? Requiets the longing. Could you dive a
Yeah.
little deeper into that too?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It desire is still there. Please hear me that. Our libido is still there, but we have several things going on. And yes, when you've been the CEO of everyone else, scanning for everyone else's needs, forgetting you even have any. And this myth they say, "Oh, you can't pour from an empty cup." BS. We do it all the time to the point we become the empty cup. And we have told our body this is not a safe place to be. Not that we're going to get hurt physically per se, but that we are so busy and so pressurized doing, being, doing that our body it doesn't feel safe to be in. And, for desire to really come online, we have to be where we can be vulnerable. And when you don't feel safe in your body, that's not going to happen. You are looking at some very unbalanced chakras. That root chakra where safety lives, that's the very first chakra we need to bring back online for our body to be able to tap in to desire again. And then our sacral chakra. I mean, those sit on top of each other. And I already mentioned when we're really uptight, we're bracing. So that sacral chakra and the root too, perhaps, it's like they're like cement, or else they're totally depleted. And we have to do things to bring those chakras in balance and back online, as well as our solar plexus, where our sense of person, our self efficacy lives all our chakras, but those 3 are very important when we're trying to get desire back online. And part of that is getting that nervous system regulated where you can co-regulate with your partner, where you can even think about desire coming back online. And, the other piece there, and don't get me wrong, hormones are important. And I hope everyone finds a good holistic person to help you with that. But think about it. We've lost our estrogen. Even if it's replaced, it's not estrogen not only helps with reproduction and health, it also helps with our brain function and the tolerance we once had for things, maybe sex positions we didn't like, maybe feelings we didn't like. Tolerance goes by the wayside when that estrogen leaves us, which is really, I look at a big gift we get in midlife where we can really reassess and go, what am I doing here? What do I want to do differently? But
It-
once we
uh,
get, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say that alone sounds so empowering.
Right? Oh,
Right? We
girl.
wake up and go, "Oh, just because I always did that from my old story doesn't mean I always have to do that." So it's
No.
like you get to make a decision from a more empowered place when you have this knowledge. And what I love too about your work is it's all the cutting edge nervous system science, which is so critical in the world right now. But you do somatic healing. I love that you bring in the chakras and then all the emotional work. Like I can feel like this is almost like all the aspects of ourself, not just the clinical.
Oh, that's right. You're right. It has to be all our aspects. It has to be holistic. We're going to do inner child work. We're going to get you re-embodied teaching chakra scans. I mean, that's all it is, but we have to approach it with curiosity instead of judgment and think about how mean we are to ourselves. So we lose curiosity, and curiosity shows up for desire too. Um, both those are very important, but we've got to get her re-embodied. She's got to feel in her body again. And that takes some work. And it can be very messy. I always tell my clients it's going to get I'm sorry, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. But I want her to be prepared as we start unthawing things and getting the nervous system out of survival mode. See, what we've also done is lost touch with our interoception, which is our ability to feel when we're hungry, feel when we're exhausted, because we how many lunches have we skipped? How many times have we been exhausted and told ourselves just push through? We lose touch of hearing from our internal organs. So as we thaw and come back online, I've had clients who really start experiencing some pain. Now, not long term, but I have one client. I think it's important we understand before I go there. when we are in survival mode, that frontal cortex is very narrowed and it's not as available to us to make decisions. You hear women talking about fog, and I keep forgetting stuff, and I just can't concentrate. I have to read this paragraph 10 times. That's a that's a cue that you're in survival mode. And the last thing we need to tell her to do is go sit and meditate, because she's going to feel like she's going to crawl out of her skin. She's got to get survival back online. Um, but I mean, excuse me, the sympathy, the state of being connected back online. But it's important for her to be curious and hold space for herself. And I find women struggle with that.
They judge themselves. We judge ourselves all the time. I'm not doing it right. This isn't going to work.
Exactly.
I'm broken. And
Exactly.
I like how you use the word curiosity, right? Because to me, that's like open and inviting. I'm
Yeah.
open to trying new things. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so continue.
Well, curiosity coupled with self-compassion. And if anyone isn't familiar with self-compassion, Dr. Kristen Neff here at the University of Texas is a great website that tells all about self-compassion. And essentially, y'all, that is being as nice to yourself as you're going to be to a stranger on the street. And we often do not hold that space for ourselves. A girlfriend will have something happen and you go, "Oh, girl, it's okay." You validate. But if that would happen to you in your head, you just beat yourself up. So curiosity with self-compassion is very important. And so we bring that to a walking meditation, and not a sitting meditation where you feel like you're going to lose, crawl out of your skin. We're not ready for that. But a simple walking meditation where heel toe, you're really outside, the phone is inside. No phone. We're back in nature. We're just being very cognizant, and that's where your root chakra lives as well, on this walking meditation. As a We do little bitty steps. This is the first step to try and help her get back embodied. And I've got one client that's been doing that, and she started feeling like her feet were on fire. Went to her doctor. We always check it out with medical doctor, and he said, "You're fine." I would think it's probably a nervous system issue, and it's gotten better. But I found that fascinating. As her root chakra came back online, it came with some heat. So it's just important that we try and hold space for what shows up for us without judgment and with lots of
Yeah, without
compassion.
thinking you're doing something wrong.
Right.
Your
Right.
body, it's almost like it's like a computer coming back online, right? After
Yeah.
you shut down are all systems go? It's trying to align everything back to almost like to where we're wired to be as women.
Absolutely. And it's so exciting at 50 plus. You are the wisest you've ever been. You've got all kinds of life experience, and you can do an identity excavation, because I find a lot of women come to me where they feel like my life force is gone. I don't even know who I am anymore. So this identity excavation without the titles, without the mom or doctor or whatever your title might be, just who are you? Who am I under all this? And how do I want to have this homecoming and define these next years? It's an amazing thing. And desire is part of that. Desire is an important part of that. But I want to remind ladies, and this is true if you're 20 or if you're 65, we only about 10 to 15% of women have spontaneous desire where we just wake up wanting it. Most of us, 90 to 85% of us, have responsive desire. And as we try to bring desire back online, it's very important that we bring our partners into this conversation, because it's a contextual kind of thing. And we need to know, or both parties need to know, it might take a little longer. This really is going to work. This is not going to work. Lots of pleasure mapping might happen with no. I mean, genitals are off the table. Intercourse is off the table, because that creates pressure as you're trying to bring desire back online, and desire doesn't respond well to pressure. And think where we've been living for 30 years, in a pressure
Yeah,
cooker.
so true. It is so true, my friend. we're going to take our next break and we're going to dive in deeper because something you talk about in your book is the overgiving erosion. And I want to talk about that because so many of my clients have given so much at the cost of themselves. They're all midlife women that it's similar to what you just said. It's almost like they wake up in the middle of their life, midlife, and say, how the hell did I get here? This is not the life. It's like they feel like they was dropped in. I say, well, because you're awakening to your truth. And that's why you're looking
Yeah.
around going, created this life, I accepted this. So we'll be back in a moment, my friends, with Dr. Julie Merriman. We'll be right back.
Wellness isn't a trend, it's a return to what's always been true. Sherry Hone is a sought-after holistic healer, energy practitioner, and founder of Illuminate Your Potentials. She intuitively reads the signals your body sends, like fatigue, brain fog, or hormonal shifts, and traces them back to the emotional, energetic, and lifestyle patterns that help you understand yourself more deeply. With over 35 years of experience bridging science and spirit, she helps women uncover the hidden beliefs, emotional imprints, and ancestral patterns that shape their lives. Through her integrative, soul-centered work, programs, and offerings, Sherry guides women to remember who they are and live from that truth. Step into one of Sherry's guided spaces, including the Journey membership, Illuminate, a 4-month private mentorship for energetic recalibration and more. Book your complimentary discovery call at sherryhone.com.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Thanks for serving up with us today for this much needed conversation about desire, identity, midlife woman reclaiming their connection with their body, their pleasure, and so much more. So right before the break, I brought in the overgiving erosion that you talk about in your book. And the reason is so many of my clients, the words they're using are, oh my God, couple things. I woke up and whose body is this,
Mm,
right? Because they just
yeah.
realize, and then they go into judgment. Other things are, um, they wake up and feel like they created a life, all aspects of it, that they don't even recognize because I think feel they were unconsciously creating their life. And now they're going, I want more. And I
Yeah.
think that ties into everything that you're talking about today because they're waking up in their bodies too.
Right. Right. Good for them. That's yes. Yeah, we give and give and give even when we have nothing to give. We and women learn, and of course I was born in the early 60s and I know it's a different day from what my grandchild is experiencing, but I learned pretty early, and most of the women I work with will agree with this. We learn to appease to get to stay in the tribe, if you will, to please. You don't get your spanking, you don't get a spanking if I please. That primal instinct, and it goes back to primitive times, but if we didn't get to stay in the tribe, we'd die. And so when we're little, we really get conditioned to do things that help us stay in the tribe, our family, we get taken care of. But that follows us into adulthood because so often we don't stop and look at the schema that are running our lives subconsciously. And the schema really produce this. I got to do, I got to do, I got to give. If I don't give, they won't love me. I'll make them mad. Then I'm a bad person. And I mean, it's just this chicken and egg kind of thing that isn't serving the woman at all. And it's wonderful that when we hit midlife, we can actually, like I said, the tolerance is kind of gone. That estrogen isn't just buffering all that. We really stop and think, is this all? I can't do this anymore. I don't know if about you, Linda, but I can think about even trying to get through my graduate work. I couldn't do it today. I don't know how I pushed myself to do that.
No, I couldn't do it today. And now I'm at a different place and my mantra is ease, grace, and flow. You know what I mean?
Oh,
But
absolutely.
I was there. I'm going to bring something in the conversation because I'm really curious of your thoughts. You know how, and this isn't about sexual identity, it's about energy, right? So
Yeah.
what I realized for myself in my 20s and 30s, I was so out of balance. I was pushing, chasing, striving, because I had a different business back then. I've been an entrepreneur for 33 years. But I was so out of balance and 14-hour days, living on iced coffee. And I look
Mhm.
back and go, I was so in the masculine energy
Mm.
frequency that I had forgotten my feminine. And then when I realized it, and again, I'm talking energy, when I realized it, I went so far into the feminine, like I will manifest, that I wasn't even still connected to my body. And then when I came into balance with those two energies and how I live my life, everything seemed transformed. So, do you talk about that in your work, or is that in part of what you do?
Oh, absolutely. We've gotta know what energy we're in. I mean, it's part of knowing the nervous state you're in. Okay, how it's about self-awareness, right? It's about
Hmm.
self-awareness, and that self-awareness helps us guide our life in the way we really desire it to go at this point. And you
Yeah,
have to have both feminine and masculine energy, that ebb and flow. That's what keeps those chakras balanced or unbalanced. That's what keeps your life balanced or unbalanced. If it leans too heavy one way or the other way, that's a very important energy to be in and understand about. And I don't think you can do the work without understanding those pieces.
yeah, because if I look back, and for reference, I'll be 64 in a few months. When I look back, when I was in that, when I was out of balance and in my masculine, which was really coming from wounds, I was chasing validation,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So you can't surrender and be
No.
present in your sexual relationship as a woman when you are so embedded in the masculine energy, because that's all about control. And
Yeah.
that's what I found for myself anyway back then. And I was like, okay, we got to fix this thing. And of course, I had a background of trauma, so I carry that stuff too. But do you feel that way, that if we don't have that balance, then if we're too far in the masculine energy, again, talking energy and frequency, ladies, um, you can't connect with your femininity?
No, no, and I think you get shamed by it, especially, I mean, because when you and I, because I'm about your age, and when we were coming through in the '80s, it was very different in the workplace than it is, um, in the 2026s, and by that, I mean, I was usually the most educated woman in the room full of men,
Yeah.
there weren't other women in there with me, and if I didn't tap into that masculine energy, I got, just annihilated, which is unfortunate, and thankfully, things have righted itself better, and I'm more confident in myself, and I'm who I am. I'm gonna show up in a tutu or whatever I wanna show up in. I don't care what the masculine energy says has to happen. And I know it's not about what you wear, but that's just an example. But I think that it's eminently important to be in touch with that and and to help your partner know where they're at too, because there's some mirror neurons that happen and there's some attunement when you try to regulate with your partner. Like I have my husband, he was he's a Texas state trooper and a cattle rancher and a farmer, and you look at him, you think he's just this big buff guy, and when he's depending on the role he's in, he's very masculine. But with me, he's so in touch with his feminine. He's so able to connect with me in a manner that is so helpful and really helps us in the bedroom because we can kind of ebb and flow with that. We've been together long enough, but you've got to know, you've got to be able to put words to it and
Yeah,
understand
so
you.
that they can meet you, right? So your partner, I'm blessed. I've been with Dana for 33 years, and he is one of the most emotionally mature and available men I've ever met, which helped me unfold and heal and all of that. And we can have those sacred conversations like you did, but
Yeah.
it took me many years to find him. And I don't even want to say find him, to be in alignment so I could call him in,
Yeah.
you
Oh, I
know?
love that. Mhm.
Yeah, it wasn't about finding someone, because I made a conscious decision, like, I am so done after my divorce. So I stayed, no dating, no anything for 19 months. I said, I'm doing some inner work, because there's I'm the common denominator in the last 3 relationships, and so I did a lot of inner work, and then, I called him in, and,
That's beautiful.
yeah, I think it's when you, as you sounds like you know, when you can find or when you have a partner that's willing to go outside their comfort zone box on thoughts
Yeah,
of sexuality and everything, intimacy, um, emotional maturity, it's a
yeah.
gift.
Oh, it's a beautiful gift. And it really brings us back to the importance of safety in your body because to do those things, you really have to feel safe to be vulnerable, safe to be open.
Yes, and do a lot of women that come to you, um, or in your research, the ones that have some type of trauma in the background, whatever it may be, sometimes for me, it was I didn't know about it till I was in my 30s. So, of course, as your client, um, when I revealed it, when it came to the surface, I had to go through all that healing because I realized, oh, no wonder I wasn't safe in my body for 35 years. So,
Absolutely.
does that trauma response from previous experiences also come into play with all this work you're doing?
Absolutely, it does. I'm also an EMDR, and IFS therapist, so those are great tools to use with trauma, but absolutely, that's that schema I was talking about. Our life runs by a narrative and subconscious schema, and we've got to get the subconscious conscious so we understand ourselves better and understand, oh, that's why I get all that anxiety when XYZ happens. So all those things are very important. We're not going to feel fully safe in our body and get that nervous system fully regulated until we uncover those those old stories and trauma. And everyone has big a trauma. It could be small T or big T, but we hold space and honor that. And I know in internal family systems we really work on parts and hold space for those parts and honor those parts because any part that formed to try and help us, much like our nervous system is doing. It's trying to help us survive and thrive. And sometimes those don't work just like we need them to work. So yeah, it's important to go in and look at those traumas because our self-talk, that narrative that's running our life, has those narratives in it, and those narratives can keep us activated in our nervous system, so we really need to have understanding.
Such an important conversation, my friend. We're going to take our final break, ladies. When we come back, we're going to dive even deeper into this conversation that I am so grateful for because I know it's going to serve many of you in just allowing yourself or giving yourself permission to bring pleasure back into your lives. So we'll be right back. I am with Dr. Julie Merriman, and we'll be back in a moment.
There is a softer way to live. In a world that moves fast and asks us to do the same, it takes courage to slow down, to pause, to breathe, to remember your natural rhythm. Jessica Bain Robert is a professor of mindfulness at Clark University and the founder of the Barred Owl Retreat in central Massachusetts. With over 20 years of experience, she has honed her gifts to become a transformational mindfulness coach, sound healer, forest bathing guide, NLP coach, writer, and speaker. Through online offerings and in-person sound baths, workshops, and retreats, she supports women in navigating transition, reconnecting with their inner wisdom, and creating lives fueled by clarity, purpose, and peace. Download your Mindful Awakening, guided visualizations, and journal prompts for daily peace and clarity gift set at jessicabainrobert.com and learn more about Jessica's soulful offerings.
Welcome back. Thank you for circling up with us today on the Inspired Conversation Show. With me is Dr. Julie Merriman, licensed mental health clinician, counselor, educator, burnout researcher, and author of Are We Gonna Have Sex or What? And today we've been talking about all the layers of reconnecting with our passion, our desire, and more, and honestly sharing that there is nothing wrong with you. So in this last segment, I wanted to ask about this because you do a lot with somatics, right? And in the book,
Right.
there's a section on the somatic secret, and it's about like how to bypass that overthinking brain to reopen the physical pathways. Now, for those listeners who don't know what the somatic work is, can you give them a little overview?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm a big fan of somatic work. We're such good talking heads. We can talk all day. We can talk around a problem and try to solve that problem. And not go deep, not really get to the root of it. And I believe unless we get embodied, unless we get up and move our body, unless we include that body in that work, we're not things are not going to resolve. They're just not going to resolve because the issues are in the tissues. They literally are. Our trauma, our nervous system override is embedded in our tissues. So we have to use techniques to move the body and release those energies that are held in the body. So somatic work is getting that body involved.
So is it something like, is there something, let's say a woman is listening today and she feels off or disconnected or just uh, out of energetic alignment is the word I use a lot. Is there
Mhm.
something that she could do um, on her own? Like it,
Absolutely. I mean,
okay.
there's all kinds of things she can do. I have 2 podcasts. I have a Sexy After 50 podcast, and I of course, I'm a professor, so I give a teach, and I close everything with an activity. There's a plethora of information there, but to get her started, hip circles. I know that sounds silly, but just hip circles. Our sacral chakra, our root is so frozen up. Hip circles, a butterfly pose where you open up those hips, and be forewarned, a lot of times tears come with that, and that's okay. Having a tennis ball under her desk, kicking off those heels, rolling one foot at a time on that tennis ball, really feeling the energy opening up, then go to the other foot, and before you start, go, "Oh, wow, my right foot really feels alive," and then doing the left foot. Little things like that are that somatic work that can help you begin that path of regulating that nervous system. Shaking. I know I've got a couple horses out back, and when I get off of Rex, my horse, he always shakes. It's like, ah, but we are made to shake. So I try to help ladies understand if you want to close that stress cycle, let's do a little shaking. Let's just get your body involved and shake. Um, Vagus nerve I mean, it runs through where our chakras run. But if you're really feeling escalated or I call it discombobulated, taking in a deep 4 breath, couple more, holding about 6, and then exhale with a noise for about 7 to 8, as many times as you need. Really, that's vagal tone we're working on there, and that's really a goal. All those things can help that pleasure come back online. And I like to send ladies when we really first start, when she's ready, feels like she's regulated and ready to start focusing on desire, to go to a really upscale sex store. There's all kinds of lovely sex stores now, and get a lovely vibrator, and it's not for genital use at this point. It's just, we have been braced so long, we forget that pleasure is even around. So to take the vibrator and maybe rub on her inner wrist or inner thighs or ankles and just try to wake up pleasure. Send the message to your brain, I'm ready. Where is she? Let her come back online. Little things like that can certainly help.
I love that. And I want to say the name of your podcast again that they can get a lot of tips. Did you say Sexy After 50?
Yes, Sexy After 50.
That's wonderful. And so, ladies, again, Sexy After 50 is the podcast. Her website is, let me make sure, Julie Merriman, PhD.com. Check all the show notes below for that. I love this. I love when you said the hip circles. That really spoke to me because I remember I was probably in my 40s. I went through a stage where I felt like everything was locked up.
Mm.
And we had a lot of family stuff going on, extended family. a lot of worry, a lot of fear. And I can remember going, oh, this energy's getting stuck in me.
Yeah,
It was
it
like not
does.
knowing. It was like I felt you, I think you used a word earlier, like cement. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh, and if I'm correct, that whole area, sacrum and all that, and the root chakra, it's about fear, right? And I was in fear
mm,
for extended time about that family member's health, right? But I
right.
remember thinking, like, oh, I feel like I can't even move.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how our body braces what
Oh,
is, it's amazing to me.
our body is so wise. It knows what we need. It used to tell us, and we just kicked interception to the curb and we went
Yeah.
straight to our head. Our body is it's there to help us live a joyous life and think where we feel things in our body.
Yeah.
It's important to get embodied. Yeah.
And I love that you, like I said, bring everything together, the chakras, the nervous system, the somatic. Because to me, what I found on my own journey is I used to live in my head, like
Uh-huh.
up to my 40s. I can remember saying to a counselor, probably was before I met Dana, so probably 40 years ago. Her name was Linda, too. She was extraordinary. And she said something to me, and I said, "I don't get it." I said, "I feel like I'm in my head, and this everything below the neck is an appendage I have to drag around." Now, I know that
Mm.
was because of my childhood trauma, of course, that I was with her to heal, but I can remember feeling it was safer to stay in my head.
Yeah.
And how many of us are doing that? How many think that that's the truth of who we are?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Absolutely. I'm glad you found your body. I'm so glad you found
Yeah,
your body.
and I was grateful for her, actually. Do you know, I just reached out to her after 30 years. Something
Oh.
something within me said, "I don't know if you ever thanked her." And so I set up an appointment, but of course she wouldn't recognize my last name because it's different. But as soon as she got on Zoom, she started crying. I started
Oh.
crying, and she goes, "Oh my God, I've been thinking of you so often." And I just said, "I worked together, transformed my life. Here's what I do now to transform women's lives." And
Oh.
I said, "I only wanted this appointment to make sure that I said thank you."
Oh.
Yeah, and it's funny because she's a horse person. Her family all had horses. She was like boho hippie style, and I loved that back then. Love it now too, but she was the one for me at that time. It was beautiful.
Oh, that
But I thought
cheered
it was
me up. That's wonderful.
yeah, I thought it was so
Yeah.
important to share that with her. So I want
Yeah.
to invite everyone as we come to a close to grab a copy of Are We Gonna Have Sex or What? That's her newest book. But she also has so much on the website. And she has a 12-week guide in pursuit of soul joy. And again, the radio show, Sexy After 50. Lots of strategies and information to support you during this process. And Julie, I want to say thank you, and I want to invite you. Is there a brief closing message you want to leave women with today?
Oh, thank you, Linda. Yes, it's not too late. You can excavate, and your homecoming is gonna be fabulous.
I love that. Thank you so much, Julie, for being with me today and the work you're doing in the world. It's so
Thank
needed.
thank you, and thank you for what you're doing.
Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.